Hello, nice to see you again. Well, this time we're going to taste a very, very special wine. We are on December. Christmas is right around the corner and New Year's as well. So let's taste something very special and different. This is the Icon wine from Undurraga Winery. Undurraga Winery is one of the oldest wineries in Chile, as the main ones was established in the 1800s. And even though it's one of the oldest and one of the most important and renowned wineries from Chile, has been renovated all the time with a new style of winemaker. We have tasted a lot of the TH wines, TH Terroir Hunter range, that they look different origins for different varietals. And also the vinification is sometimes different. There's an orange wine there in the TH rarities, but today we're gonna taste a classic. And what is a classic in Chile? A Cabernet Sauvignon or a blend where the majority, the main varietal in the wine is Cabernet Sauvignon. There are three places in the world where the best Cabernet Sauvignon can be produced. One is Bordeaux, where it comes from. The other one is Napa Valley. And the third, because we have to say the last, Chile. Not because it's the worst of the three, because when you talk about others, you say them first and then you name yourself last. Uh, and especially remember that our valleys are divided in three subregions. They're very different from one of the other, not only because of the soil composition, but also because of the climate. Even though Chile is very narrow, like in average, like 90 miles, no more than that, the conditions changed a lot. Remember that every single day we have this cool breeze that comes from the coast together with morning fog. Around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you feel a very strong breeze coming inland. Then by the evening touches the Andes and comes back again to the west, towards the west. And that makes everything that is planted close to the Andes very, very different because we have high temperatures during the day, but a very, very cool temperature at night. We have, like, when the grapes are ripening, about 20 degrees Celsius of difference between the highest temperature during the day and the lowest temperature during the night. We can have like minimum 10 and maximum 30, or sometimes we can have minimum 7 or even get up to 32. It varies. So it's very, very important what I'm explaining to you. So this wine, Altazor from Undurraga Winery, is sourced from the main component is sourced from Maipo Andes, so in the Maipo Valley, but in the Andes region, on the foothills of the Andes. And the area, that area is called Pirque, and is where many of the top Cabernet Sauvignons from Chile, the best ones, are born. So let's talk a little bit about this wine. This wine, legally, is a Cabernet Sauvignon because the law says in Chile 75%, but and in Scandinavia as well. But in the rest of the world, a wine to be labeled as, in this case, Cabernet Sauvignon, needs to have at least 85 of that component in the blend. In this case, has a proper name, and the exact blend is a secret of the winemaker. So we have more than 85% of Cabernet Sauvignon, and then we have two other varieties that provide complexity, more acidity, a more character to the wine. It's kind of the salt and pepper that the winemakers use. I'm talking about winemakers. Let me tell you that the winemaker for this wine is Rafael Urrejola. Rafael Urrejola has been nominated three times to become the best winemaker of the year in the International Wine Challenge. And this year, he was nominated again, but he won. He's considered today, this year, the best winemaker for red wines in the whole world. And why I'm telling you this? Because I believe in that wine challenge, because all the tastings are made by a panel, not one person, and blind panels. So they don't know what they're tasting. They know more or less the price range where the wine is and the category. But more than that, they don't know. So that's what I'm telling you about this very important award that Rafael Urrejola won this year. So I pour the Altazor about 15 minutes ago into the decanter. This I did it not because of the sediment of the wine. It's a 2018 vintage, so it has 5 years, mainly because of the oxygen. The wine, when it's closed with the cork, has a micro oxygenation, and the wine is kind of tight. So you feel a lot of acidity, a lot of astringency, and the aromas and flavors don't showcase as they are now in the decanter with more air. And it's going to be much more expressive now that I'm going to pour it into the glass, okay? A beautiful Altazor decanter. So I'm going to pour some wine into the glass. Have a drop there. Okay, so we talked about this wine has at least 85% of Cabernet Sauvignon in the three components that it has. The two others are a little bit, a tiny percentage of Carmener that is sourced from Colchagua Valley. And then it has another small percentage of Carignan that was sourced from Maule Valley, where mainly Carignan is planted. These other two varieties are uh, from dry farming, no irrigation at all. The Cabernet was planted in the 80s, and the Carignan was planted in 1958, long time ago. So they're vines that already have their all the root system already established. So all the strength goes into the berries. Now, let me tell you that the yield per vine is 0.90 zero point 900 grams, okay? Only 900 grams, not even a kilo. And usually with a kilo of grape, you can make one bottle of wine because the bottle has 750 ml. So each vine didn't yield not even a bottle of wine, okay? So very, very small production. The vintage of 2018 was cooler than the previous ones. The interior in general, I'm telling you because the climate is changing, and also sometimes we have the phenomenon of El Niño, La Niña. This year we have El Niño, so we have more rains, but with higher temperatures, which is very unusual for us. And we have had rains even in November, and that's very strange. Usually the rains are concentrated in the winter time. So this winter in 2018 was very, very was wetter than others. So that was very good and cooler, and that made us have like more layers of aromas and flavors in the wine. So it was a great year, I think, for winemaking for wines in general. 2018. Remember that we harvest at the beginning of the year. We harvest depending on which varietal and in which valley, from February till even May. Okay. Now it depends what you want to get out of the grapes is when you harvest too, because there's a certain, as the grapes arrive, they go. You have fresh fruit, then you have riper fruit, and then if it's overripe, you have a lot of jam. And today we don't want that in the wines. There was a decade that all the wines, especially the icons, were very, very jammy, and you lose a lot of character when you harvest the grapes overripe. Okay, so then we have three components. The main one, above 85%, is Cabernet Sauvignon. Then we have Carignan, a small percentage, and Carmener is a small percentage. Uh, Carignan is a Mediterranean variety. It's called in Spanish Carignan as well. Okay, so the dates of harvest were 20th of March for the Cabernet Sauvignon, 26th of March, I think, for the Carmener, for the Carignan, and the 30th of March for the Carmener. Usually Carmener is even harvest later, but that's a winemaker decision depending on how he wants the Carmener to showcase itself in the wine. So, in general, I will tell you that Carmener, it depends in which valley is harvested a little bit later, even April or May. But depending, remember always how has ripe the variety in which area is, how exposed to the sun is, and also the practice that the agronomists have done in the vineyard. For example, there's a practice that is very common in Carmenere that closer in the last month or month and a half, they take some leaves out of the vines and they expose the clusters, the bunches, all of them totally to the sun. So they get much more exposure to the sun. Sometimes others viticultures don't do that. They take less leaves or they don't take any at all. So depending on that also and the valley and the climate and the soil where it's sourced from. Mainly this type of soil where we have here, where we have the Cabernet Sauvignon is alluvial soil, stony with sand, medium to low fertility. Then we have more clay in the Carmenere. Yeah, and then also we have for the Carignan, we have clay, but also with some granite. So the three compositions are different of the soil for each varietal, and also because they are sourced from different valleys. Okay. Um, the wine was fermented. First of all, the grapes were in their harvest. They were harvested uh, in small containers of 12 kilos, taken into the winery, and then they have a double selection. First, they selected the bunches and then the berries. So any berry that was not perfectly all perfect was discharged. Okay, so then the wine had a pre-fermentative maceration. What is that? In technical words, it's called cold soak. And that means that the wine was in touch in the tank with the skin and the seeds, but at a cold temperature, not at a temperature that the wine will ferment later. Why they do this? Because you get two things. First, a lot of aromas and flavors at a cold temperature, but also the color. Remember that almost everything is in the skin. Only the acidity and the sugar is in the pulp, is inside. So everything else is in the skin. So if we start fermenting and we start producing alcohol in the fermentation, the extraction of color will be lower. And we don't want that because we want this Nikon wine, we want a perfect color that will evolve really well, etc., etc. So this wine went through a pre-fermentative maceration between 8 to 10 days. Okay, the wine, the tanks used were only of a capacity of 10,000 liters, no more than that, small tanks. So a pre-fermentative maceration, each varietal was fermented separately. So pre-fermentative maceration with the skin and the seeds for 8 to 10 days, depending on each varietal and each tank, because the winemaker tastes every single day the tanks while they're fermented, since they're juice all the way until they become wine, and later all the time they have to taste when the wine is in the barrels later. Everything has to be tasted. So we have a pre-fermentative maceration of 8 to 10 days, and then we had a fermentation around 28 degrees Celsius. Then the fermentation lasts like 7 to 10 days, depending on the exact temperature. And then the wine went through a post-fermentative maceration. Even though we have the wine already, the wine was kept in touch with the skin and the seeds for a longer time. In total, with the pre-fermentative maceration, the fermentation, and the post-fermentative maceration, the wine was kept in touch with the solids for about 35 days, 30 to 35 days. Okay, why? Here we have excellent quality of grapes, so we have excellent things to extract. Therefore, if we have longer maceration in all the forms, in a cold pre-fermented maceration or a post-fermented maceration, and while the wine is fermented, we're going to extract only good things because we have excellent quality of grapes. Okay, then each variety was aged separately. The Cabernet Sauvignon was aged in barrels, the Carmenere and the Carignan, each varietal separately. How long? For 16 months. 25% of the oak barrels were new. and 75% were second use. We want to feel the oak, but not overwhelming. So that's very important. And then the bottle, after that, well, while just after the wine was racked into the barrels, a second fermentation took place that is called malolactic fermentation, where the malic of the wine turns into lactic acid. The acidity goes down a little bit and the wine has a different character. Okay. That is usually done to all the reds. To some whites, you have a percentage. It's used less than this because of the style. In the old times, there were many, many Chardonnays, especially from California, with a 100% malolactic fermentation. They were very, very buttery because of the malolactic fermentation. In the red, you don't feel it that way. So the majority, I will say almost all the reds, do have malolactic fermentation after the alcoholic fermentation. And then we had the aging of 16 months in French oak. As I told you before, 25% of the oak was new, 75% second use. Okay. Then, well, the wine was bottled, and when the wine was bottled, was kept 18 months before released. So will age and evolve in the bottle. So we're going to taste the wine. We can see a beautiful red purplish color as the wine ages. The red wine loses color to more like ruby red, purple to ruby red, turning to ruby red hue. That means that the wine has been aged a little bit. Remember, that has 5 years, and we harvest at the beginning of the year. Okay. As you see it, I smell the wine without swirling the glass the first time. So I feel a lot of fruit here, a lot of black, red berries, but I feel something else too. Let's see. Raspberries. What I don't feel is like the oak as oak. I feel wood, but I feel more like a cedar touch, more elegant. I also feel some graffiti from the pencil, graffiti from the pencil, some tobacco, uh, black chocolate. It's a very complex wine. I'm going to put it in my mouth. As I swirl the glass more and more, the wine is becoming more and more expressive, showcasing much better. I remember always the first time that you smell the wine, don't swirl the glass, don't swirl it because you're going to lose very special, very special aromas. Okay? Oh, I feel a lot of fruit, even though the wine has been aged for long, 16 months in oak. It's fresh, it's juicy, great acidity. Um, it's not jammy at all. All the contrary, it's very juicy. I'm not eating anything. I just had breakfast very early in the morning, but I don't feel the astringency of the tannins. It's so silky, so elegant. The oak is there, but it's not overwhelming, as I told you. I'm impressed by the softness of the tannins. This wine has 14% of alcohol, very low residual sugar, 2.78, and total acidity of 3.72. Okay, I'm going to tell you the exact blend. It has 92% of Cabernet Sauvignon, 6% of Carmenere, and only 2% of Carignan. Carignan has very strong tannins, but also has a great acidity. And Carmenere provides the complexity, a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of pepper is going on there. For sure, I recommend you this wine for the Christmas dinner, depending on what you're making, but it's excellent. As I told you before, even as a Cabernet Sauvignon, it has, remember, that has 92% of Cabernet Sauvignon. It's really a Cabernet Sauvignon. And the one he likes to put the proper name, Altazor, okay? Not to have it. They don't need to put Cabernet Sauvignon. They cannot put Cabernet Sauvignon on the label if it doesn't have at least 85%. That's another thing. Uh, I recommend you this wine. I'm not going to tell you open a bottle of Alta Soda for a special occasion. I'm going to tell you something else. So when you open an Alta Soda bottle, you transform a normal moment in a very special moment. So I just have to tell you, cheers. I hope you have a great holidays this year and enjoy Undurraga wines and especially Altazor. Cheers.